Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. One more time. Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm your host, Dylan, along with my cousin and co-host,
Gab.
And today we are talking about, I guess what's technically another baseball movie that snuck in. I didn't even think about it when I picked it. But
Yes.
we're doing another baseball movie by the end. We're talking about the 1988 The Naked Gun. Gab, you've seen this before, right?
So I have seen this before. I will say in my brain, I think I conflate The Naked Gun and Airplane, which I'm sure is not a unique experience.
Very feasible. A lot of the same type of humor and a lot of the same people behind the scenes.
Yeah, and in the scenes, Leslie
there
Nielsen
are
is
similar
an Airplane.
people in some of the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is not Airplane. So Gab, why don't you tell me what The Naked Gun is about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
The Naked Gun is about a police squad in Los Angeles who are investigating the attack of one of their own when they discover that some bad guy is trying to kill the Queen of England and they have to stop him.
Okay, not bad, not bad. IMDb is a bit more succinct.
Sure.
Incompetent police detective Frank Drebin must foil an attempt to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II.
Okay, well, he left out the part about O.J. Simpson, so shame on them.
Which we will have to address the OJ in the room, of course.
We're going to have to.
The juice is very loose in this movie, but we will talk about that later. Before I get to that, do you want to hear some taglines?
I guess so.
Okay. I am going to simplify them this time because some of them are like the same, but they changed a word.
Thank you.
So the first one, sort of as you talked about already, from the makers of Airplane.
Jesus Christ.
But then there's one I appreciate more. From the brother of the director of Ghost.
Okay, I love that. Also, Zucker directed Ghost?
Mm-hmm. I believe Jerry Zucker directed Ghost and David Zucker directed The Naked Gun.
Yeah. David Zucker is the funny one of the two.
They're both funny.
Not Ghost. Ghost
I've
ain't
never
funny.
seen Ghost.
You haven't seen Ghost?
No.
Not only have I seen Ghost, I've seen Ghost the Broadway musical, and I'll tell you what, it was not great.
You know what? Do they do the scene on stage?
They do.
Yeah?
Oh, they do. And it's real pottery. Yep. And, it's a little on screen. It's kind of like, I get it. In real life, it's like, oh, no, I'm just watching something I shouldn't be watching.
I'm pretty sure one of the Naked Gun sequels spoofs that scene.
I'm sure they do. It makes sense if it's a Zucker thing, too.
Yeah, that makes even more sense, actually.
Yeah.
All right. If you see only one movie this year, you ought to get out more often.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like the Zucker humor.
And I think this is my favorite one, and it's one they did like 3 different times. You've read the ad, now see the movie.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. The other one is you've read the ad, now see the movie, please. Which I also appreciate.
Yeah. You got to ask for what you want.
I feel like because we sort of discussed it already, should we hop straight into the opinions so that we can get the big one out of the way?
I guess so. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to give any kind of like plot? But I guess the plot almost doesn't really matter, right? It's just kind of a bunch of spoofy
I was gonna
jokes.
say, if you want to give like a very quick spoiler plot, Frank Drebin is a detective. His friend is Nordberg, played by O.J. Simpson, who is described as his best friend, which I would never think of it that way when I normally watch this movie. But someone attempts to kill Nordberg. And then during the discovery and the investigation of that crime, they realize that there's also an assassination plot going on to kill the Queen that Nordberg must have been somewhat onto. So it's them trying to solve both Nordberg's attack and the Queen's assassination attempt before somebody kills the Queen.
Right. And inevitably, they end up at a baseball game where the attack is going down. And what's his name? Detective Frank
Drebin.
Drebin has to, I love that name. Frank Drebin has to stop it, and he pretends to be the singer of the national anthem, and then he pretends to be an umpire, and then he has to like pat down all the baseball players, and hilarity ensues.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should get to opinion time, and I am anxious to hear yours.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
The first opinion. I think OJ is my favorite murderer I've ever watched in a movie. He's pretty good.
Yeah. I would agree. He was delightful. And I'll say this, one of the first times that really, I guess the first time we see OJ, he is breaking into a boat where he knows that there's some kind of drug deal going down. And he has a gun, and so does everybody else on the boat. And so he gets shot. He gets lit up. And as he is falling down from his gunshot wounds, he puts his hand on a hot kettle and burns his hand. And then he goes backwards and he hits a pipe with his head. And then he goes into a wall with wet paint. And then he gets his hands shut in the window. And then he falls into a bear trap. It goes on and on and on and on. It is so funny. It is like this never-ending death scene where he can't just die. He just keeps hurting himself. And Corey looked at me and goes, "This is how some work days feel." I was like, yes, it is.
What's great about it is how he keeps reacting bigger to everything but the gunshots, like the wet paint and going, "Oh no," like that type of thing. I also love like this movie. I think I described like Deadpool and Wolverine as like it just throws so many jokes and it's barely hitting. I feel like this movie throws so many jokes and a lot of them hit. One of the jokes that hits me so well is when they go down to the dock after the crime is had with Nordberg and they have the chalk outline on the water.
Yes. It's so
where
funny.
he must have splashed into the water.
Yes.
Yeah, OJ, I heard like when I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff that apparently Leslie Nielsen was nice to deal with. The actor who played Ed, George Kennedy, was nice to deal with. OJ, kind of a jerk. Not that shocking, I feel like.
I mean, definitely not that shocking because he is a murderer, but I thought that he came across, and I think this is kind of the OJ conundrum, right? To a viewer, to the naked eye, if you will, he seemed like a delightful, funny, hilarious, like pretty talented physical actor because he doesn't say much. He's very physical. So I can understand why America fell in love with the juice.
He comes across really nice, and I feel like he wants to come across really nice. That's why when you see him like totally flop at it, it's so strange. Like, you ever seen that clip of him with the newswoman and he comes out like pretending to wield a knife at her?
No.
He's like, I think he thought he was being funny because this is after everything has happened, Gab. I think he thought he was like gonna make a big old joke out of everything, if he had done it type of thing, shenanigans. Yeah. And he comes out and I think he's like, maybe I'm misremembering it, Gab, but I swear to God, I remember watching the video and I think he's doing the theme to Psycho as he comes out. I think he's going, he, and the woman's like, oh, like she reacts in the terror that you would if someone who was a murderer that got away with it was coming at you in a scary way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I feel like it's the same thing that I would expect. And I'm sorry to throw another criminal out of this podcast. I feel like Bill Cosby would kind of act the same way if he was just with like one-on-one with one person. He'd be like, everybody likes me. I'm Cosby. Although if you're one-on-one with somebody, like, if you're one-on-one with Cosby, you're probably asleep. So he's probably not trying to entertain you anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He's taking care of that. He has no one to perform for.
Oh, God.
I will say this still, and I wonder sometimes if this is just because I'm from New York and I feel very New York, but the reason that people like OJ are super nice and come across as really nice and ultimately wind up being fucking murderers, I think that's why people who are super nice, like Southern people or Midwestern people who like go out of their way to be nice, make me so uncomfortable. I'm like, I just don't believe you.
You could be polite without being nice. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to just have manners, like you hold the door for the next person and you're like, oh, thanks, when somebody holds the door for you. It's another thing when people are like, oh, hey, I really appreciate you doing that. What's your name? Like, I'm like, why are you engaging?
Nope. Yeah, do not engage. I think that's because we're from where we're from, but I feel that's so hard. Somebody once told me that I am kind but not nice, and I took that as a major compliment because I don't want to be nice. I don't want to be your friend. Like, please. I don't have
feel
the time.
Better, Gab. I don't think you're nice or kind.
Oh my God, it does because you know me better than most people. Okay.
I feel like we also neglected to mention that at the heart of The Naked Gun, at the soulful deep bosom of it, it's also a delightful romance story between Frank Drebin and Jane, played by Priscilla Presley.
Yes. So my question for you, Dill, and I wrote this down in my notes, is where does this movie fall on Priscilla Presley's timeline?
Like, of life?
Yeah, like, because I'm looking at Priscilla Presley and I'm like, okay, but like, when did your husband die? Like, how long ago did your husband
definitely
die?
Post that.
Yeah, but how post? Because
I
she
can tell
didn't
you
really do
momentarily.
anything else, right? She's not like a famous
She didn't
award-winning actress.
act in a lot of other things. She and Elvis were together for 6 years. So 67 to 73 is the time they're married, I should say. And this is 88. So this is 15 years after they're married. He died in 77. So this is 11 years after he died.
Oh, she wasn't married to him when he died?
No. But you know
Okay.
they met when she was like 14.
No, I don't really know anything about Elvis.
I watched that movie, the one by oh my god, what's his face? Who did Moulin Rouge?
Baz Luhrmann, and the kid
Baz.
couldn't stop talking in the Elvis voice, and he had to get speech therapy.
I think he's still just locked in Elvis.
That's embarrassing.
Once you go Elvis, you don't go back.
I should watch it. Was it bad? I heard it was bad.
It was pretty good. I feel like there's one scene that got kind of memed, but I think even in the movie, it's supposed to be a joke of like
Mm.
Tom Hanks and everybody hearing Elvis on the radio, and they have this moment of realization where they're like, and get this, he's white. He's white. And I feel like I've seen like a compilation where somebody just managed to keep editing in more, like just keep cutting back to different people going, he's white. He's white. He's white. Like
That's hilarious.
but Elvis famously white. If you didn't
Yeah.
know, now you know.
Yeah.
So I can't tell, is the movie making a joke of the fact that there's obviously a huge age difference between Jane and Frank? Or is it just like, come on, there's a leading man in a movie. We can't have, like, if a leading man in a movie is 30, would they put a 10-year-old girl as like the female lead?
I didn't get there being any reference to their age difference.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it was just more of like the farce is that he's a leading man, you know?
Yeah, which also is kind of like, he's, this upshot police detective and he's like 60. Like,
Yeah,
he's in his 60s.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the inherent joke there. I don't think there's like any text to support that. The movie does start out in a way that I think if they remade it today, it wouldn't. So the opening scene of the movie is a bunch of like what appear to be Middle Eastern leaders of like different
Famous
nations.
dictators too, like Gorbachev and Yasser Arafat and Gaddafi. Yeah.
Yeah. All kind of meeting to discuss. They want to perform some kind of act of terrorism on America, and Leslie Nielsen as Fred.
Frank Drebin.
Frank Drebin, thank you. My next point involves a Fred, so bear with me. He kind of like comes in and foils the attack and saves the day with some really bad fight choreography, which is very funny. And so, but I don't think that flies today. Not that I give a shit, right? But I don't think it flies today. But I think if it did fly today, I would make Fred Armisen every single Middle Eastern leader / dictator.
I think you could do it now with Fred Armisen as every dictator, like full stop. You could have it be like Putin, Kim Jong-un.
Yep. But
Yeah.
all Fred Armisen.
Yeah, you know what? I'd watch that.
Yeah, thank you.
You know they
I
are
agree.
remaking The Naked Gun.
They are?
It's part of why I picked this. They put out a teaser trailer. Liam Neeson is going to be playing the Frank Drebin role.
No, Liam Neeson isn't funny.
You know what? Leslie Nielsen isn't a funny actor either. Before this in Airplane, he had just been a very serious dramatic actor. And I think that it can totally, I thought it was a bad idea until I saw the teaser trailer. And you know what? The teaser trailer worked for me a little bit because at the end of the teaser trailer, you see that he is playing Frank Jr., Liam Neeson, and he's looking at a picture of Leslie Nielsen. And he's like, Dad, good to see you. And then like we see another cop who's supposed to be Ed's son talking to his picture. And it keeps going. We see like a wall of cops talking to their dead father's pictures. And you get to the one black cop who is looking up at a picture of OJ and just looks at the screen and shakes his head. No. Like, and I was like, you know what? That feels like The Naked Gun. I'm cool with it.
Is David Zucker directing?
I don't think he is. I think Seth MacFarlane has involvement in it. And you know what?
Okay.
It could be okay.
It could be okay. I'm interested.
They talked
I'm
about doing it like a decade ago, maybe more. And at one point, Ed Helms was in talks to be like the Frank Drebin role.
You know, now that I say it out loud, I do think because of obviously, like, I don't want to sit here and explain comedy to you, but because it only works if Frank takes himself very seriously,
Yes.
it almost doesn't work if it's Ed Helms because it's like he's inherently like kind of goofy and like, oh, la, la, la. But
Yeah.
it works if it's Liam Neeson, if he can pull it off.
Because the thing is, everyone is the straight man in this movie. Like
Yeah.
nobody is intentionally funny. The writing is what's funny, not like the
Yes.
acting performance of it most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just watched like MacGruber, which I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was honestly way better than I thought it would be. MacGruber.
No.
Will Forte is the star of it, and he is great because he's being really funny and he's going so over the top to be so funny.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen
Yeah.
is over the top serious in this movie.
Yes. 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 So, really quickly on that, the opening scene takes place in Beirut, and I just want to say, and I'm wondering if this is like a universal thing or if it's just me, but I don't know if it's from this movie or just from the 80s in general, but my dad loves describing things as being like Beirut.
Oh my God, you just unlocked a childhood memory for me. Do you remember my Beirut Mickey?
That sounds really familiar.
Apparently there was a Mickey Mouse doll that I was so attached to. So attached to. And
Do you remember this?
I think I might have talked about it on the podcast once before, but like at some point, one of our dogs, maybe I was young enough. I have to have been young enough that it was Ranger.
It was Ranger,
my dog
yeah.
until I think I was like 6 or 7 when he passed. But
Yeah.
at some point, somebody tore poor goddamn Mickey's eyeballs out, and I would not let them get rid of it. I would just cry hysterically if they tried to get rid of this Mickey. So they did the only thing they could, which was to keep the stuffing from coming out. They duct taped around his head. So they described him as Beirut Mickey. And I don't really know what the reference means, but it just looked like he was like involved in some horrible torture. But I was like, that's my Mickey. Like,
Yeah. Well, my dad used to drive down Portion Road, and if there was like one pothole, he'd be like, it's like Beirut in here.
yeah, my mom still will describe things as it's Beirut Mickey or like it's Beirut whatever.
It's got to be like an age thing.
Oh, it has to be.
But it is so funny, and I figured it would be universal because if my parents did it, your parents probably did it. By the way, shout out to my mom. Today is her birthday. She will never hear this because she doesn't know how to listen to podcasts. But
Have we said her name? Should I?
please.
Happy birthday, Marlene.
Yeah, it's
You'll
fine.
never hear
It's all
this.
good.
Love you.
You'll never hear this, but we love you. Yeah, Beirut. Beirut is it's really interesting. I do remember Beirut, Mickey, very well. Also, yeah, that's all. That's all for that.
I feel like you had something, but okay.
I was going to ask you, I'm really interested in the idea of getting a golden retriever, and I remember Ranger being the best dog ever, and I'm
Yeah.
just curious if I'm remembering correctly, right? Ranger was great.
I remember Ranger being great, and I remember nothing, so he must have been.
He was great. And he got along with Puma too, right?
Yes.
Oh, Sally got fat. Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't.
So Corey's been giving Sally treats like every single night. She was 6 pounds at one point when she had surgery and when she got weighed at the vet and whatever. And we weighed her last night and she's 9 pounds now. She gained 50% of her body weight.
That seems like that's not the same as like a human being gaining like 80 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. It's 50% of her body weight.
It's, I guess. Also, I like that you didn't say Sally got fatter. You made it sound like it happened. Bam, Sally's fat now. Like
She is. It happened overnight. I don't know. I kept saying stop giving her treats. Anyway, you can cut all this out. So
fat?
Beirut.
You want me to cut the fat out of Sally?
Yeah, please. All right, let me look at my notes here. The terrorism plan that they had kind of predicted the future a little bit, no?
Did they come up with a plan, or were they just formulating? It was just musings of a plan. And then he starts talking about America being like weak, and Frank interrupts them.
Yeah.
Don't ever let me catch you guys in America. Which, can we talk about? I love the opening credits of these movies. Like the fact that it's your standard like titles where you're seeing the naked gun, you're seeing the actors in the movie, but the entire time you're always at the point of view of a police car driving, and it's always a police car driving somewhere it shouldn't be. It's a police car driving into a house, into a locker room, on roller coaster tracks. Like it's so absurd that it gets hysterical as it goes on.
It's funny, and the people reacting and running out of the way of the car.
Which one of those people is the director is putting a clock on the wall, and then he has to dive out of the way of the car. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. And then, of course, it ends at the donut shop.
Yes, as all police days do.
Of course. Absolutely. Leslie Nielsen in this movie is really the hero that America deserves.
I feel like he's very symbolic of America. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like just confident and stupid.
Is he right? Rarely. Does he believe he is? Always.
Always.
Yes.
Unquestionably.
I also feel like I was mixing up some parts of this movie with some parts of Airplane because I kept waiting for somebody, like, they get to the hospital. I was like, now somebody's going to say, well, what's a hospital? And he's going to go, it's a big building with sick people, but there's not time for that right now. You know what I mean?
Yes. I also really like that the hospital is just called the hospital outside of it. It's great. This movie actually unlocked another core memory for me. Watching him break into the office of the guy who plans to kill the queen and seeing him pick up a piece of furniture or something and then place it back exactly in the spot on the carpet where the indentation was. I was like, I remember like doing shit like that where you would like move something and have to put it back directly on the carpet where it was, or else your mom would know. Do you remember doing stuff like that?
Yeah, the carpet holds the memory for you of like, here's where it goes.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know. Like for some reason, I just haven't thought about that in so long. Maybe that's a dumb memory for it to
That's
have
just
unlocked for
apartment
me, but
living. That's you have not had access to a carpet in so long.
it's so true. It's so unfortunate. That really shook me.
Yeah. I do also, just in general, Ricardo Montalban, what a cool voice. That man could say anything and it would sound like poetry. The bad guy, Ludwig.
Oh, yes. I thought maybe he was putting on that accent.
No, that is what that man sounds like.
Interesting. Where is he from?
Like what? Where is the actual person from, or like what have you seen him in?
Oh, where's the actual person from? Let
I
me
think he's
guess.
of
Guatemala.
Mexican descent.
Hmm.
I stopped myself like, meh.
Mm.
Now I want to make sure of it, but I'm pretty sure. Wow. I just like the way that this starts. Legendary actor Ricardo Montalban was the epitome of Latin elegance.
Oh, wow. Sorry, Dylan. I guess that award is not going to go to you.
If someone was going to describe you as the epitome of something, Gab, what would it be?
Probably something that would upset me.
Hmm.
What about you?
The epitome of all couch potatoes.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably the epitome of all fucking stress.
I was going to say, don't stop at the epitome of all fucking, Gab.
The epitome of all stress and misery, maybe. I don't know. I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
Mexican? Guatemalan?
Mexican.
Okay, good job. I think that the a probably under-mentioned actor in this movie is his secretary, the older lady.
I got a fun fact for you about her, too. You're talking about Ludwig, the bad guy, his secretary, right?
Yes.
So,
Dominique.
Yes, his secretary, Dominique, is played by Charlotte Zucker.
Ah,
it is the
his
Zucker
mom?
brothers' mom.
Oh my God, she's so good.
She was in like all of their movies, apparently.
Oh, that's great. She must be very funny.
She is so good in the scene where it's the first time we're seeing with Ludwig and Mr. Papschmier.
I hate that, by the way.
Mr. Papschmier?
Yeah.
When we're first seeing them introduce like the sensory hypnosis to do the, Manchurian
The murder.
Candidate assassination attempts. Yeah.
Yeah.
They pretend to use it with her pulling out a gun on Papschmier. And when she in this hypnotic state is pulling the trigger of the revolver and it's not shooting it, she just puts it to her head and keeps pulling it like, why ain't this thing working? It gets me every time.
Yeah. It's very funny. She's great. I don't like that they call him Mr. Papschmier. I get it, but I just don't like it.
I forget that Mr. Papschmier is in the first scene as well. He's her connection to the very first scene.
Oh, he is?
Yes. That's why he's the one going to Ludwig about the assassination attempt of the Queen in America.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Yep. He is one of the people in Beirut.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about was it just the mention of Beirut that made you laugh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Poor Mickey. So I was going to say one of my favorite movie jokes of all time that I cannot not think about anytime, quite frankly, there is a condom. When Frank and Jane talk about practicing safe sex and they are wearing, I'm so sorry I'm spoiling this joke for you. Pause right now if you haven't seen The Naked Gun. I think it's on Tubi. You can watch it for free.
Yeah, you can rent it on Amazon. Don't be cheap.
Either one. If you have an ad blocker on your computer, Tubi has no ads. So there you go. But Frank and Jane are just wearing full body length condoms over themselves, just like nuzzling each other on a bed. And it's one of the funniest like images I've ever seen.
And then it goes to the giant wrappers that they took them out of, which is so
Yes.
funny.
I also like the inserted music video for Herman's Hermits. I'm into something good, which like
Oh yeah.
they just have a montage, which the montage goes on to like we see them on several dates, we see their relationship grow, and at the end of the montage, we see Jane go, "I had a great day." Like they make it feel like it's been so long. I don't know. There's so many different types of humor in this. There's the very obvious visual gags. There's the very quick, line reads. There's the subverting of expectations. Like it gives you a bit of every type of joke you could think of.
It really does. And I think one of my favorite parts about this movie is that there is not a moment that goes by where there isn't another joke coming at you. So it very well does the like, if this one didn't land, don't worry, there's another one coming. And I think that some of the humor is a little bit more up my alley than others. But it never feels like, oh God, I don't like this. Like you never get that feeling of like, okay, this isn't for me. Because
Yeah.
immediately there's another type of humor and it hits.
You know what's a joke from this movie that I feel like, and this movie is what 35 years old by this point or something like that, 37. I still see on Twitter sometimes the scene of him at the dock bribing the guy, and he and this guy just keep passing $40 back and forth as they're
I love
convincing
it.
each other to give each other more information.
I love it.
And what
That
they're
is
really doing,
classic.
it's the funniest way I can imagine of something that can be so bad in movies, exposition. He's just giving exposition about like what was happening with Nordberg, but they're doing it in such a way and like introducing our villain, like Nordberg was working for Ludwig or whatever. And he's like, no, he wasn't. But it does it in such a way that you're not even thinking about the fact that like you're just being given information in this scene because you're cracking up at them passing the same $40 back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so funny and so good. And it's intelligent and you're obviously laughing at the two of them for being so stupid, but you are getting a lot of information. And then, there's also like a lot of really good physical humor. Like I said, there's the OJ death scene or whatever. OJ, I think, is funny in this whole thing because he doesn't die. He ends up in the hospital. And anytime Frank goes to speak to him, he ends up hurting him and like he gets smushed in half in the hospital bed.
Mhm.
He gets thrown up against the wall. It's all very funny. So I think OJ does a really good job with that to the degree to
There's
which he's involved.
the assassin who attempts to kill OJ during their getaway chase, which that whole getaway chase is great. But when he finally crashes his car, and he crashes the car like 3 separate times because it just keeps going until he crashes into a fireworks store.
Yes.
Also, I feel like I need to mention during that car chase scene, Frank gets into a car and does the classic police follow that car type line.
Yes.
And of course, he's got it into a student driver vehicle. And I think one of my favorite moments again for this movie is this driving instructor telling her after they've almost gotten into an accident with a huge 18 wheeler, he goes, extend your arm.
Gently extend your arm.
Now lift your middle finger. Very good.
It's great. And she ends up like rip roaring it by the end.
Yes.
It really is so funny. And then of course, I think the joke with the best payoff, and I don't, again, if you haven't watched this movie, please go watch it. But I think the joke with the best payoff in this movie is that when they finally get to the baseball game, Frank has to get himself onto the field so he can try to identify the player who is going to be the one who is hypnotized into murdering the queen. So in order to get on the field, he figures out that he is going to pretend to be the Italian opera singer who is
Enrico
singing the
Palazzo.
national anthem. What is his name?
Enrico Palazzo.
Are you sure it's Enrico?
Positive.
Okay, Enrico Palazzo. So Enrico Palazzo in real life, within the context of the movie, is a big fat Italian opera singer, just like you would imagine. So Frank goes into the room, ties him up, puts on his suit, even though the suit fits Frank perfectly, which I think is great. I think it would not have been as funny if the suit was gigantic. You know what I mean? Like I like that they made it fit him.
Yeah.
He goes out onto the field and butchers the national anthem, but butchers it in a way that is not over the top bad. It's like just a little out of tune, and he messes up the words just a little bit.
When you remember 90% of the lyrics, but you got to fudge the rest of it and pretend you know, like there's one lot of time where he's like, Da, 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 like,
It's so good. He's like, gave proof that the flag was still there. Like, it's so funny. He's a little behind, he's a little off key. And then he pretends to be the umpire. Somehow he manages to get out of his tuxedo into the umpire uniform where he really enjoys himself as the umpire. He's dancing, he's moonwalking, he's
yes.
flipping.
He
It's
needs to
great.
search all the players, and he's not even thinking about actually officiating the game. But once the game starts and he calls the first strike and the crowd goes wild, he's calling strikes before the pitches get to the plate.
Yes. It's so good.
I love him searching the players. The particular moment that always stands out to me is the guy who's, I think it's for the Angels, he's the pitcher. When he is searching him and he is finding every method of cheating and manipulating the ball that you could find, but because it's not something to kill the queen with, the guy is like, you can see the pitcher just like slightly panicking as he's pulling out like Vaseline, sandpaper, whatever. And then he just like puts it all back in his hat, puts it back on his head. I die every time at the guy's face.
I like when he's patting them down at the plate and he says something to one of the players like, those pants are a little tight in the crotch. You might need to get them taken out.
Yeah. You know, I had just watched, and I don't think you've ever seen it, so it's really not going to be much to you. I had just watched Batman Forever, like a night before I'd watched this. And one of the bad guys in Batman Forever is Two-Face. And he beats Two-Face at the end by like telling him, you need to flip your coin to make a decision, Harvey. And when he goes to flip his coin, he throws a bunch of coins up in the air with it. So it's like Two-Face freaks out. He can't figure out which one to catch and he falls. They kind of do the same thing in this movie. Like at one point, he can't let the third out happen because once the seventh inning stretch happens, that's when they will attempt to assassinate the queen. So it's a pop-up foul, like right behind the plate, easy for the catcher to catch. And Frank is trying to stop him from catching it. So he takes all the baseballs that he's got out and just chucks them up in the air. And I just remember the image of like the guy grabbing 7 baseballs to try and tag somebody out with. And he tags him before he even reaches the plate. And he goes, safe. He's like, safe? What do you mean safe?
Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a baseball game played where the umpire is exactly like Frank Drebin as the umpire? Because I have.
I mean, famously, every Angel Hernandez game, people saw that way that I was like, this motherfucker has no idea what a strike zone is.
No idea.
Doesn't this whole movie, like, if you animated this movie, it could perfectly work if you just replace Frank with, like, Daffy Duck. Like, this could be Looney Tunes.
Yeah. Frank is not as evil as Daffy Duck, but I agree.
No, but he can be, like, as simple as Daffy Duck can be. Like, I saw that Looney Tunes movie that was in theaters the day the Earth blew up. And I feel like I could totally see that version of Daffy Duck being Frank Drebin.
I thought you were telling me that the day you saw it was the day the Earth blew up. I'm like, I don't remember.
No, it was the name of the movie was the day the Earth blew up. I think it's out streaming now, so you should watch it. But
okay. So to get back to my favorite payoff in this movie, after he is the umpire and he manages to, oh God, I'm a little fuzzy. He manages to stop the assassination of the queen because there's like this big dog pile and benches clearing brawl and all the players are fighting and one gets out and has a gun and is like, must kill the queen, must kill the queen. Frank uses the what we've seen demonstrated as like a dart gun that like makes somebody pass out briefly. Mm-hmm. He uses it and hits a rather large woman in the third deck of the stadium who falls and squishes the assassin. And when everybody realizes that it was Frank who did it, they all start screaming and clapping and cheering, but they're going, Enrico Palazzo!
It's Enrico Palazzo!
And they're like, and it's just this moment where I love it because it's been at least 15 to 20 minutes. And the fact that they think it was him after he sang that way, like it's just such a good moment and it just wraps it up so nicely.
You do also get this brief look of disappointment when he first takes off the helmet, like Frank Drebin, and everybody goes, Enrico Palazzo. You just see him like, oh yeah.
He's disappointed.
Yeah.
It's great. It is really great. And then in the end, of course, he and Elvis's ex-wife get together,
Jane.
And it's very nice. Jane, yes.
I feel like we didn't put enough respect on Ed, played by George Kennedy, is also great. I just want to make sure we do address that. Also, did we mention that the only real baseball player, did we mention Reggie Jackson?
No.
Because you had a player crawls out of the dog pile, and it's just very funny when you see Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson, climb out of the dog pile going, I must kill the queen. Like,
Yeah.
I also just like the imagery of the queen at a baseball game having to pass down hot dogs and like beverages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of scenes where Frank tries to save her from what he perceives as an attack and like slides her down the table and is like laying on her, and all the press has pictures of him like straddling her. I didn't that joke didn't land for me.
I think it lands to me when you see George Kennedy Ed seeing in every single newspaper going, "You on top of the queen," and they think that's news. Like that works for me. Just the sheer imagery of it, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, there's a scene where he's hanging out of the building and he's grabbing onto like all the statue boobs, and then he grabs on like a real lady's boobs, and then
Did
he
you find
grabs
that
the
scene funny?
uh, intellectually I understand that it's funny.
I crack the fuck up because he's out on the ledge with these very anatomically correct statues with the breasts and the male statues penises. And it's when he's hanging off the statue, holding onto this penis to stay alive because he's going to fall off
Tries
a
to put it in
building.
his mouth.
And this woman who he just grabbed has hidden into the window, and she opens the window to see him lifting his face directly up towards this pecker, this concrete dick. And she's like, what the fuck? And as he gets up, he finally gets back on the ledge. He somehow twists the concrete upright, and they show a shot of the statue's face with a huge beaming smile.
Yeah.
I don't know. It works. It gets me every time. And I
Yeah.
never realized the line before. Of course, he falls into the window of the apartment of the lady whose boobs he grabbed, and he has broken off the concrete penis, and he's like delirious by this point, just holding it out, and she's screaming, and then he's getting read the the riot act by his police chief, by the mayor, who's saying sexual assault with a concrete dildo. Like, it's just the miscommunication of things. Like that's so much of the humor is people just failing to communicate accurately what's happening in the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really truly, if you've made it this far and you haven't watched it, I can't recommend enough, please. It is also, we didn't even talk about like the best part of this movie. It's
Which
like
part are you thinking of?
it's like an hour and 20 minutes long.
I was gonna say I think it's an hour 40 max, but that's with all the credits. It is not a long movie, but it is wall to wall jokes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so great. I, as an adult, I have watched probably up until it got stupid, every episode of Impractical Jokers at least 6 to 7 times a piece. And they're very inspired by David Zucker. And David Zucker actually is on an episode with them at one point.
I was watching an interview with him, and he said this may have been before he was even on that episode too. He went, "One of the funniest shows on television is The Impractical Jokers." Like I don't remember how it even came up, but he was like, I think she was asking like, what comedy do you watch? And he was like, if you want to know like what I watch right now, he was like, the funniest show on television. I will cry laughing from The Impractical Jokers.
Yeah. Yes. And they obviously were very inspired by him. And so at one point he comes on the show and they're doing one of those like don't laugh, like the other person has stuff prepared and you just have to sit there and not laugh. And at one point Murr is on FaceTime with David Zucker as if David Zucker is like his acting coach, and he's like, "You're not funny. Nothing you do is funny." And it's really, really good. But it's great when you understand who David Zucker is. And so I just really appreciate that connection. And I'm sorry I wasted so much of our time trying to make it.
Oh, that was the harshest you've ever been to yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Should we get to the facts?
Please.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 86%, an average rating of 7.5 out of 10, 49 fresh reviews, and 8 rotten. Audience score of 84% with an average score of 4 out of 5. And it has a 7.6 on IMDb. It had a budget of $12 million, which I feel like I heard between 12 and 15 million at different times. But either way, it grossed $79 million worldwide. The critics' consensus: The Naked Gun is loaded chock full of gags that are goofy, unapologetically crass, and ultimately hilarious. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars, which I feel like for at least the past like 3 or 4 episodes, Roger Ebert has just given everything 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert got on a lazy string at some point. I went, sure, because I'm going to read you this blurb and you tell me if this sounds like a 3.5 star blurb. The film is as transparent as a third grader with a water gun, and yet I would rather review a new film by Ingmar Bergman, for there at least would be themes to discuss and visual strategies to analyze.
Ouch.
That sounds really harsh for like saying, by the way, go see it right now. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
damn near the highest score I can give it.
Jeff Andrew from Time Out. The endlessly tasteless juvenilia should make you ashamed of laughing yourself into a stupor.
Juvenilia.
Did you know that was a word? Because I sure had never thought of it.
No, juvenilia. I'm going to use it though. Like Schwarzeneggerian.
Schwarzeneggerian's a good one. We got to thank Nando for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, I said that one already. Desmond Ryan from the Philadelphia Inquirer. The two Zuckers and Abrahams have surprisingly forgotten a principle of parody that they taught everyone else, namely that the jokes have to fit and that they have to refer to the target, in this instance, police movies.
Oh?
I feel like it applies more than well enough, but sure.
Okay.
Finally, Gene Siskel from the Chicago Tribune. It gave me about 10 big laughs and 20 small laughs and as many smiles. That's value for time and money spent.
Agreed.
Now we're going to go to Letterboxd, which it was hard to find Letterboxd reviews that weren't just people saying a quote from the movie that were like, come on, how funny is that?
Yeah.
Jay, strange that the Crown forgot such an important part of the Queen's history when she was almost assassinated by hypnotism at a baseball game. Matt Gurley, 4 stars alone for the smile Drebin gets when he realizes he can be a star umpire.
Agreed.
Bill Jabiri, first revisit since I saw it in theaters, and I'm pretty sure I laughed just as hard as I did the first time. Watch it with my son, who laughed even harder than I did. This shit just never gets old.
It's true. I agree.
Dylan Gorson, I would actually watch baseball if Leslie Nielsen was the umpire at a game.
Yikes, but okay.
And then Matthew Kelly, who you may know better as Nando, friend of the podcast, he had a review on Letterboxd I saw that just said the funniest movie ever made.
Yeah. Wow, that's a shining review. I'd like to add, this is not a Letterboxd review, but it is a review from our good old friend Frank.
What did Frank say?
Frank, in all caps, I'm going to read this the way that I'm sure God intended. He said, "Oh my fucking God, holy shit, that movie taught me almost everything about comedy. I am obsessed."
Valid.
So there's that.
Valid. The movie was directed by David Zucker, who also directed Airplane, Basketball, Top Secret, and former movie we did on this podcast, Ruthless People.
Yeah.
The screenplay is written by Jerry Zucker, Jim Abrahams, David Zucker, and Pat Proft, who also wrote Hot Shots 1 and 2, the Police Academy movies, Airplane, the Kentucky Fried Movie, and Mafia. The movie stars Leslie Nielsen as Frank Drebin, who you may know from Airplane, Creepshow, and Scary Movie 3 and 4. Priscilla Presley as Jane, who you may know from Being Married to Elvis, Dallas, The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, and The Naked Gun 33 and a Third, The Final Insult. She's also the mother of Lisa Marie Presley and the grandmother of Riley Keough. Ricardo Montalban as Vincent Ludwig, who you may know from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Spy Kids 2 and 3 as their grandpa, and Fantasy Island.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, do you remember? Did we see Spy Kids 3 together?
We saw 1 together.
Damn, we old.
I don't know. We are old.
George Kennedy as Ed, who you may know from Cool Hand Luke, Dallas, or Creepshow 2, and O.J. Simpson, who you may know from American Crime Story, O.J. Made in America, and June 17th, 1994. Wait, those do not star him. They are just about him and the whole murder thing. Also includes Nancy Marchand as the mayor, who you may know as Livia Soprano, and Al Yankovic, who you may know for being weird, and Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear some fun facts?
I really do.
After Leslie Nielsen sadly passed away in 2010, ESPN published an obituary for Enrico Palazzo, writing, "A true Renaissance man, Enrico Palazzo umpired the game after performing the national anthem. Palazzo was the first and only umpire to eject another umpire from a major league game. He also is believed to be the first and only umpire to use an upright vacuum cleaner to tidy up home plate."
That is so nice.
Many years later, Susan, I think it's Bobian, I'm going to say his last name, who played Nordberg's wife, starred in The People versus O.J. Simpson, the first season of American Crime Story, about the O.J. murder trial. She was one of the jurors.
Wow. I bet he was mean to her, and that's why.
When Queen Elizabeth II died on September 8th, 2022, Reggie Jackson tweeted, "Now we all know I was innocent. Amen. Rest in peace, Queen E." Oh my God.
That's so good.
Among Frank Drebin's old food in his refrigerator is a jar of mayonnaise with an expiration date reading 1982, the year Police Squad, which is the show that this movie is based on, that only ran for, I think, 6 episodes, debuted.
Interesting.
When Ed is eating at the baseball game, which we see him eat like a bunch of grapes. He takes a bite out of a full size cake. Like there's just a moment where we just see him eating different things at the baseball.
He's like nervous eating.
Yes. When we see him doing that, the song "I Love L.A." is playing, and behind him is Randy Newman, who wrote and sings the song, adjusting his baseball cap.
That's awesome. You know who's obsessed with Randy Newman?
Who?
Scott Interrante.
Randy Newman. Isn't it incredible that he's like a huge success? The man, like, it's the same thing to me as like, at least Bob Dylan is like a brilliant songwriter. Randy Newman is like the songwriting equivalent of Dr. Seuss. Don't get me wrong, I love Dr. Seuss, but the fact that like a bunch of adults are out there like, I love it, like, and we're all like, yeah, this is it. And he's like,
Yep.
sure people got like, we all just let it happen. We're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Also, what a hot take on short people.
No reason to live is the next lyric. Yeah.
No reason to live. That's a bold statement. And we were all just like, listen, we're all allowed to have our opinion.
Sounds good to me. Like,
yeah.
in the German language version of the movie, dialogue is added in which a policeman asks a black man for his name, to which he answers, "Whitey White Man."
Oh, okay.
Bold move by the Germans, but okay.
The Germans were like, and we must sprinkle some racism.
The Germans were like, come on, people love when we do that.
Yeah.
That's like our whole thing.
Your German accent was much better than mine.
Yeah. This is one of 3 1988 comedies that feature a scene in which a villain is run over by a steamroller. The others, A Fish Called Wanda and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. In the DVD commentary, during the undercover stakeout scenes with Nordberg in disguise, writer Jerry Zucker says, okay, here's OJ planning his murder.
Amazing.
In an interview, this is my last one. In an interview with Greg Lindsay, David Zucker said, I actually cast OJ in 3 things. I don't like to talk about it. All I'll say is the last time I saw him was at the wrap party of The Last Naked Gun. We shook hands, said goodbye. I sold him my knife collection, and that was it. I never saw him again. Which,
oh my God.
Once again, I very much appreciate that sense of humor because he said it in such a deadpan way that I cracked up watching it.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite humor. And that's why I really love The Office.
It's the joke you don't see coming, I feel like is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
You're right, Gab. It's the joke you don't see coming. And you know what you don't see coming? The mail.
Oh, never see the mail coming. Let's do it.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
The postman rings twice. Alrighty. First, we have something from our Canadian correspondent, Kyle.
Hello, Kyle.
And this mail is coming for our Moulin Rouge episode.
Mm.
Dylan, we know that you hate jukebox musicals because you're uncultured. Gab talked about her love of Broadway theater. What movie would you want to see turned into a Broadway musical? And what Broadway musical would you want to see turned into a movie?
Oh, boy.
Okay. Movie to Broadway musical, I kind of feel like American Psycho would be awesome as a musical.
I think they did that.
Oh, man, really?
I really do. I'm going to double check because I could be wrong, but I really think that they did.
Oh, I thought I had such a good idea, Gab. We were going to make millions.
I could be wrong. Hold on. Yep, they made it.
Oh, does that ruin my
It didn't
idea?
do well. No. It just means that somebody else also had this idea, but the good news is you didn't invest a lot of money in this idea because the idea didn't work.
That does make me feel better. And for a musical that I would turn into a movie, I feel like they've all been turned into movies, no?
Yeah, for
let's
a
make
large
let's make the
majority.
Hamilton movie. Hamilton,
Well,
I saw Hamilton, it was
technically,
phenomenal. No,
Dylan-
don't give me that Disney Plus performance of Hamilton.
I almost said Dylan Plus, so you're welcome. Dylan
Dylan Plus, you get even more couch potato time.
I think I would like to see a musical version of, wow, everything I'm thinking of, they've already done. I would like to see a musical version of, actually, I don't think, oh no, it was. Damn it.
Ooh, do you want more time to think about it? Because I've thought of a second idea and I like
Yes, please.
it. Okay. Another movie that I think would make a cool musical, and I'm going to be real bad if you tell me they did it, because I'm imagining it like the puppet musical from the end of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Gremlins. Gremlins the musical.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
I think that
I don't
would be
think so.
great.
I would like to see maybe like Die Hard the musical.
They actually did that as an episode on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
All
I
right.
think it's called Work Hard or Die Trying, Girl.
I'm gonna have to look that up immediately. In terms of a musical that I'd like to see made into a movie, well, we all know what happened when The Last 5 Years was made into a movie, so not too sure about that. Um, my dumbass almost just said, "How about West Side Story?" Um, I don't know. I feel like a lot of them have already been made, because people like to make money. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that is calling my name. Um,
Cats, but leave the buttholes.
they just did Cats.
But this time with the buttholes. All the cats have buttholes. Every single one of them.
Sally, get in here. Sally's talking about buttholes. I don't know. I think I would probably prefer it to be a play rather than a musical. Like, I think there are a lot of really cool plays. I don't think they've ever made a movie of the Fantastics. And I've never seen the Fantastics, but I enjoy the music from time to time. So maybe I'll say that. I don't know. You got to send me these in advance so I can think about it. Next.
Well, I feel like that throws off the whole mystique of it, but fair enough. Then we have a comment from our number one listener, Scotty Cameron, who writes, Scotty Cameron's YouTube novel, sometimes you just have to let go and embrace what you've become. Which, you know what, I guess I appreciate it, but it is long. Bring Me the Horizon is a British heavy metal and metalcore band. They're effectively both for My Valentine meets Linkin Park. Bring Me the Horizon recently did a metal reprisal of Bad Habits, which is an actual collaboration with Ed Sheeran, and they performed in the Kerrang Awards with Ed Sheeran. The thing about Bring Me the Horizon is that their early work was a little too deathcore for my taste, but when Suicide Season came out in 2008, I think they really came to their own commercially and artistically. Which, wait, I'm now picturing. Have you seen American Psycho, Gab?
Yeah.
I'm now picturing him reading this like, do you like Phil Collins? You know what I mean? I'm now picturing him going, but Bring Me the Horizon, their early work was a little too deathcore. But once Suicide Season came out, it really came into favor. Okay. The whole album has a clear, crisp sound and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives a strong boost. They've been compared to Asking Alexandria, but I think Bring Me the Horizon has a far greater range of themes in their music. Scotty, I'm very sorry. I'm gonna skip some of this. As far as including songs in movies goes and whose approval is needed for the song's inclusion, from my understanding, it really all depends on how it's included in the film and what elements are used. For something like a jukebox musical, you probably would only need the approval of the singer, like Kurt Cobain, or to whom the singer left the lyrics in their will at the time of their passing, like Courtney Love. Now, if the drums and guitars were also used in the film in addition to lyrics, then that's when you would need Chris Novoselic and Dave Grohl to approve, because that was their contribution to the song. Ooh, that's an interesting way of thinking of it. Now, if you were just to use the studio recording of a song, that version that gets all the airplay on the radio, then you really only need the approval of the record label like Geffen Records, the label Nirvana released their music through. I will just say I saw an Unsolved Mystery segment on Kurt Cobain's death, and one of the points one of the people talking about Kurt's death was that he couldn't have lifted the shotgun to shoot himself. It's definitely suspicious. I'm not sure if I'm willing to say Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain, or if he was killed by a hitman, or maybe he had the shotgun pointed at himself before he got messed up on heroin, so all he had to do was pull the trigger. It's like the Kennedy assassination, where there's a lot of stuff at play that doesn't add up, and there are nuggets of truth in conspiracy theories about it. However, many of the conspiracy theories are just outright absurd, like Jackie Kennedy hiring Lee Harvey Oswald to kill Jack Kennedy. Where'd you come up with that, internet? Lastly, I want to congratulate Gab on getting married to Corey, a wonderful milestone you two have crossed, which, tell me I didn't miss it. You guys aren't married yet, right?
No, you will be there, certainly, but it will not be until our -1 anniversary will be coming up in a few months.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. A lot of my friends are getting married around this time, including our mutual friend Jordan Newman, who was on our podcast on the Catch Me If You Can episode.
Of course.
Proud of all of them. Let's just hope the Royals don't play the Mets between now and Gab's wedding. The last thing we need is baseball ruining this moment. Then again, I'm also hoping that the Royals don't play the Pittsburgh Pirates, because Joey Wentz, who is the Pirates starting pitcher, is a friend of mine, and we were in the same graduation class. That's the one instance I wouldn't place my bets on the Royals, because I want to support my friend Joey in his MLB career. I guess let's also hope the Pirates don't play the Mets in that case. Enough talk about baseball, even though Gab's pretty passionate about baseball. Congrats on the wedding. It will be great. I'm happy for you. Stay yappy, the jackass who picked Vampire's Kiss.
No matter what he does or says, he will always be the guy that brought us Vampire's Kiss, and for that I will always love him. Next,
we have somebody else who wanted to talk about the music in Moulin Rouge. our very own musician, Scott Interrante, who did the theme for this podcast. Smells Like Teen Spirit's music rights explainer. I listened to the Moulin Rouge episode and you talk about Courtney Love and the rights to Smells Like Teen Spirit. I work in music publishing, so I can offer some insight. Maybe you don't want it. None of my business. I did it as a voicemail instead of an email because it's complicated. Maybe you'll play it. Maybe you won't. I don't know.
I'm so excited.
It's not my show. Love, Scott.
Wait, also side note, when we did that episode, did I mention that Scott loves that movie?
Moulin Rouge?
Yeah.
I don't think you did.
Oh, that's so fucked up on my part. I gotta text him. Okay, play it.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear it.
I heard it.
Good.
Friends, this is Scott, past guest and composer of your theme music. I don't know if you do this. Do you ever take voicemails instead of emails?
We're doing it now.
I wanted to call in about the music rights stuff that you mentioned regarding Smells Like Teen Spirit and Courtney Love in the last episode. And honestly, it's complicated, and I figured a voicemail would be better than an email. So I'm doing that. Maybe you'll play this, maybe you won't. That's none of my business. It's not my show. Okay, but before we get into all that, the verdict? What are we talking about? I mean, Dylan, I understand, I can expect, but Gab, what are we doing here? Jesus Christ. Anyway, I work in music publishing. This is all very complicated stuff, even for someone like me who works in this business. So I'll try to do my best to explain this. Basically, to back up, there are two kinds of music rights. There's the master, which is like the actual audio recording that Nirvana recorded. In most cases, the master is owned by the record label. Sometimes that's not the case, see Taylor Swift. But that's not relevant here because obviously this is a cover. So that is in the world of publishing, in the copyright, which is actually the intellectual property ownership, like the concept of the song, the lyrics and music. So in that case, that ownership or that the rights are split between the writer and the publisher, but that's not relevant here because obviously this is a cover. So that is in the world of publishing, in the copyright, which is actually the intellectual property ownership, like the concept of the song, the lyrics and music. So in that case, that ownership or that the rights are split between the writer and the publisher, half and half, and the publisher is the one who makes the decisions in terms of like who is allowed to record a version of this song for a movie or whatever, and they negotiate the fee. So Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic actually do also have writer share along with Kurt Cobain on this song. I don't know the percentages, but they own part of the composition, but they are not the publishers. It seems like Kurt owned all or like 98% of the publishing. That was whatever the deal that existed during the band. So when Kurt Cobain died, that became part of his estate, and Courtney Love was his wife, so she looks after his estate. So Chris and Dave, they still make money on it, but they don't actually have necessarily a say in how the music gets used. They didn't when Kurt was alive either. So that's sort of what happened here. I think, 10 or so years ago, Courtney sold a lot of the ownership of that to a bigger publishing company to look over it or whatever. But yeah, that's the story. I don't know if this is interesting at all. Again, it's not my show. I don't care. But that's what it is. Okay. And just one last time, fuck you guys about the verdict on this one.
Oh, fuck you too.
That actually made me so happy. I love him to the moon and back. That's amazing.
What a way to end the message, though. I don't care.
It's typical fashion.
Like
typical.
Tommy Lee Jones in fucking The Fugitive.
So I have a question. I have an embarrassing question. How did this come up? What did I say?
Because we talked about during Moulin Rouge, we had talked about the music rights to Smells Like Teen Spirit. And then you were saying the band doesn't have any ownership of this because I was saying it was Courtney Love gave permission.
Oh, right. And then I said, wouldn't Dave Grohl have? Yes. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. But I guess that makes sense. It was if Kurt Cobain just owned more of it.
I will say now that we have like the expert opinion from Scott, Scotty Cameron kind of nailed that there in his go at it. Yeah.
He did. He really did. Well, look
Kudos
at these two
to you,
Scotts.
Scotty.
Yeah. I think so. If I failed to say this on the episode, I should be ashamed of myself because the last time I watched this movie was with Scott at his house. He loved this movie. And I remember liking it, maybe not as much as he did. And now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, it still wasn't really that good. But I'm glad that he still enjoys it and loves it that much. And I'm happy to know that that's how music rights work. Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk? We actually have one more message in what is one of our most robust mail segments ever.
Yeah.
So we got a message from Keen Machine on Moulin Rouge. Greetings. Attached is my long-awaited feedback on recent episodes. No need to thank me. You're welcome. Keep it keen. Keen Machine. And I will now play Keen's audio.
Oh.
Greetings, Gab and Dylan. It's been so long since I've written in, so I'm going to do a voice message, and there's not a timer on this one, so buckle up. Here we go.
45 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Episode that I wrote in for, so I'm just going to start at The Lion King, because The Lion King is amazing, and really enjoyed having Ryan be on your show as a guest, and you all had great insights. I love The Lion King. It's my favorite Disney film, always will be. Got to see the Broadway tour and it was fantastic, and yeah, just absolutely incredible. That is the last movie that I recognized or have seen.
Oh no.
Yeah, so there's that. Oh, ignore that. I have my email on my computer. Anyway, so The Replacements, never seen it. Thought we were talking about the early 2000s Disney Channel one season TV show, and apparently this is a movie. No thoughts. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Thought this was going to be like a Shakespeare movie or something based off the title. Apparently it's not. And no thoughts. Little Big League. Oh my god, another sports movie. And of course, not just a sports movie, another baseball movie, because we know how much everyone in New York apparently loves baseball. You know, we have baseball over here too, but I don't watch it. Anyway, sounded cute, actually. I think I would actually like this movie. But yeah, no other thoughts. Moulin Rouge, never seen it, have heard of it. So it has that going for it, but have not seen it. But then I found out it was a jukebox musical, and hate that. As soon as Dylan said it was a jukebox musical, I said, absolutely not.
Yes.
I do not like jukebox musicals.
Preach.
I think they are bad. Why are you writing a story and using pop culture music? You're just instantly dating, time freezing your art by doing that. Because now it's like, oh, well, this movie was made when these songs were popular. Like, and that's it. So, hate, agree with Dylan. Music should be written specifically for musicals. And when you're ready to have a discussion about a good musical and you want to watch a good musical, I'm right here. Call me up. Bring me on. It's possible. We'll make it happen. And I will show you a great musical and you will love it. And it will be a musical movie to watch before you die. And if it's not, I mean, that won't even happen. So I'm not even worried about it. There is no if it's not.
Cats.
Anyway, those are my thoughts.
With buttholes.
This has probably gone on for too long. I don't really care, though. I'm making up for lost time here.
Nobody cares.
Gab, let me know if I need to send you another $1 or if I'm still your favorite. Also, yeah, keep it keen.
I will say, yeah, the running theme of audio messages, I don't care.
Yeah. That was a little wild. Yeah, listen, I don't want to watch Cats. You can't make me. And you definitely can't make me watch Phantom of the Opera. And there's really no way in hell that I'm going to sit down through The Sound of Music to talk about it on the podcast. So I don't really know what to tell you.
The Sound of Music's adorable with those children running away from the Nazis.
I love it. Yeah,
I will say,
am happy.
I do trust if Keen came back with a musical recommendation. He's only been on this podcast once and he's 1 for 1.
He should come back.
Yeah, sterling record. So
this is a formal invitation.
He is welcome.
All right. Well, now that we've taken up all this time with the mail segment, let's get back to what the people actually came here for.
The Naked Gun.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence to death.
I have to have seen this movie at least 20 times by this point, and I still crack up each time I watch it. And I feel like I still occasionally like notice things that I have forgotten about or notice things maybe I've never noticed before. And to me, if a comedy is getting that much mileage out of it that you've watched it 20 times and you're still laughing, it's a movie to watch before you die in my book. Gab, what say ye?
So I watched this movie as a kid with my dad, along with Airplane, etc. My dad loved it. He showed it to me. I remember liking it. We used to quote it. But I did think watching it recently, like, okay, this movie is from the 80s. Is it going to hold up? Is it going to be funny? Like sometimes the humor just doesn't span the generations.
Sure.
And oh my God, does it hold up? It is hilarious. It is, it just, it keeps coming at you in a way that is so pleasant and so positive. And I just love it. It's not complicated. It's not the kind of movie where you're going to miss something. Everything is very surface and obvious. It's hilarious. A 10 out of 10 recommend. This is definitely a movie to watch before you die.
Awesome. Like, there's a couple jokes I'll say that are very of their time and like sort of don't hold up. That it's like, even that first scene we're talking about, you might be watching this today and not know who Gorbachev is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you get past that, there's going to be 100 more jokes that you will easily get.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's great. 10 out of 10. Love it. Great. Leslie Nielsen is such a treasure.
He really is. And I feel like it's going to sound so mean. I don't think he as a person was that funny, but I think he really loved that people found him funny. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever seen him? Have you seen him in interviews though? How he would always bring along a fart machine to interviews. So that he'd be in the middle of talking and just press this fart button like on his little fart machine. And he loved it. He went to every interview he did with it, like once he discovered this bit. And I'm like, good for you, Leslie Nielsen, trying to be funny. You're having fun.
That's nice.
Like, I feel like he embraced that after being a serious actor for what must have been 30, 40 years.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful voice. I like to think of him discovering that people thought he was funny in the same way that Frank discovers that people are happy when he throws a strike or when he calls a strike.
I just imagine he was on set on The Naked Gun thinking this isn't going to work. And he just smiled like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
He was in the movie theater watching Airplane and he said, Shirley, you can't be serious. I am serious and don't call me Shirley. And the crowd went wild and he was like, yeah.
I could do this. Yeah. Yeah, it's delightful. I would like to watch Airplane at some point. We don't have to necessarily do it on the podcast, but it's a very similar movie. I like anytime Corey spills water when he's drinking it, I go, and you have a drinking problem.
That's when I had the drinking problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think to myself all the time, looks like I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. I do think like Airplane to me was the too obvious, like the greatest spoof movie ever made.
Yeah.
But this is the one that I think is like a little more forgotten and like should be called out more, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy we did. Thank you.
Well,
all right.
Well, this worked out well. If you want to send us an email, you can email us at movieswatchbeforeyoudie@gmail.com, or you can send us a voice note there and we'll play it on the podcast. We are a member of the Hall of Pods Podcasting Network. You can find the link for that link tree below. Yeah, I'll go with that. That's good enough word-wise. And we also have our link tree for all of our links in there. You can Venmo Gab if you feel like it. Chuck in a buck. You can review us on, Apple Podcasts or wherever else you review podcasts. I don't know. And Gab, is there anything that I left out there? We got merch. I don't know why you would want it, but we got it.
We have merch. And Dylan, I still have your Christmas present.
I still have the jerseys I need to give you.
Yeah. So we're going to have to do an IRL podcast.
Yeah, we'll plan that at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
What is journalism coming to? You're laying on top of the queen with her legs wrapped around you, and they call that news. They can't kick you off the force, Frank. It's just not fair.
I know, Ed. Life isn't always fair. Just think the next time I shoot someone, I could be arrested.